Hello. Today we're gonna get pretty much straight into it. I think it's kind of obvious since you can see exactly what frame I have on. Um, just ignore that. Anyways, yeah, we're gonna be going over Atlas, which is well, he's not that hard to understand. So let's go right in. Today we're gonna be looking over a caster build, which is just focused on casting a singular ability, or in the case of Dante, a caster build will just be spamming this the just spamming his abilities. In the case of Dante, but here it's just trying to spam a singular ability. Um, that's what I try to do with my Atlas, but also one extra ability to get his passive up, which I will explain in a second. So for Atlas, there's only really two important moves to understand. Well, three technically if you consider the passive a move, but there's only three important things to understand about Atlas. Number one, he punch. Punch do a lot of damage. Okay, so there's a certain punch combo that goes from 4, 6, and 8 meters. So it goes up as you continue chaining your punches, and higher, as you can see on the stats, it goes up to 8 meters. And the energy multiplier, meaning it costs less energy when you continue the combo. Now, I have Nurse here, but it's not necessary. I literally had it on because at first I used Nurse on this, but now it's kind of because I don't have that much duration. But still, you can have Nurse on here if you want to have a little bit of duration, but I don't have any because it's just focused on casting. Third thing, Petrify. So this gives you so enemies are turned to stone. And there isn't really anything super important about this. It just kind of, you know, makes enemies take more damage and turn them to stone. Passive. So he's immune to knockdown, but his real technical passive is his bar right above my ammo. You can see the little rock there. So what you can do as Atlas is freeze the enemies and punch them. If you kill them within that punch, it takes a second because I usually have my ability ramp all the way up by the time. But once you ramp it up and then you're able to kill stuff, you can begin to build your bar. You want to just have your combo, freeze, hit, and kill. And then you will see these blue things appear on the ground, which are rumble rocks, and they will build your bar, so you get more armor. There's also an augment for it, which is actually really good. And I'll be showcasing why in about I don't know, a minute. That's usually how long it takes to build this up. But in a relatively long mission like survival, you're gonna have this up in about a couple minutes. Usually like one. You want to go around collecting all your rocks. I don't think they get vacuumed in, so that's one thing to note. Almost there. Almost there, and we are there. So what this augment does, which I will be showing in a couple seconds, is makes it so the cast for the one is completely free. It does double damage, and it goes double the speed, as long as your bar is above 1,400. So it's really easy to maintain though, because it decays at 5 per second, and you can just kill stuff pretty easily with the rumble and just pick it up when you need to. So basically, as you can see, my energy is not going down, and I just destroy crowds really easily. Now, what's the super good thing about this is that you don't need to build for efficiency if you're running this way, but if you don't want to run this augment, just go straight ahead and build straight for efficiency. Now I am, because sometimes I struggle with keeping the bar up. That's the only thing with Atlas, but that's if you're using him for like the first few times you're getting back into him. I understand that. Um, but there is a second augment that I will talk in a second about. But this is the basically the most important part of it. Um, yeah. So that's pretty easy to understand. This makes it so you don't have to build for efficiency at these super high levels. Like if you have all your mods and stuff, you don't have to build for efficiency because if you have this augment and you're able to keep your bar up consistently, you can just say no, no thank you efficiency and just run your normal build. Now, for me, what I have here is a Blood Rush build combined with Galvanized Steel and a bunch of critical damage. So you have Organ Shatter, critical damage on this, a little bit of reach. You don't need the reach, but that's just my preference. More crit damage, no more crit chance from this, and base damage along with Voltic Strike, so I can trigger melee influence. So reach you can actually replace with whatever. I just couldn't figure anything else out. You can have like Elementist if you want to have that DOT from electricity, or you can actually put on sacrificial steel if you don't want to have galvanized steel. But I don't think it's let's test it really quickly and we'll see how much of a difference it makes. Just for you guys. Yeah, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. So this is more of a preference thing for your build. If you want to go for sacrificial steel or galvanized steel, that's more of a preference thing. But I feel like galvanized steel is a better option with the crit damage because you won't really be hitting above like tier tier fives. You won't really be getting above tier five hits. Reach isn't necessary, but if you want to reach a little bit further and you hit more enemies, then you can go ahead with that. I do recommend having Gladiator Rush on here, not for the set bonus. Also, yes, for the set bonus, but also the combo duration, because if I take this off, it is, if I remember correctly, 5? Yeah, 5 seconds, which is kind of hard to work with because you're going to be, if you're in like a low enemy density mission, it's kind of hard to work with. But let's continue here. And here's the build. Remember, this is just a caster build. I will build one in like literally like 2 seconds that actually you can use for just generalization. The base range is fine. I would not recommend changing the base range. Efficiency is okay. You don't have to have blind rage. If you want blind rage, go right ahead. Um, bleeding expertise and streamline for more efficiency. If not, I wouldn't be able to have blind rage on here. Rubble heap for the augment. This is what I was talking about. When above 1400 rubble, the rubble costs no energy, 2 times damage, and travels 2 times faster, which is really good. Path of Statues leaves a trail for 12 seconds for enemies that petrifies them. So if you have this augmented super low duration, like for me, it won't freeze that many enemies, but still, you can just use Petrify. It's really just your play style. But if you want to have a general build, what you can do, you can run like Growing Power or Steel Charge. That's personal choice. Steel Charge is better because I'm pretty sure that Landslide counts as a melee. So you can run Steel Charge or Growing Power for more strength, or this for more aura slots. Now for this, for the Vazarin slot, I recommend using Steel Fiber, Adaptation, stuff like that. Anything really decent. I use Gladiator Aegis because it gives a little bit of armor, but still gives me the set bonus, which is really good. Now, if you want like a kind of balanced build, you can go with Steel Fiber. If you don't want the set bonus, go to Steel Fiber. You can have Vitality, but you won't really need it if you're keeping up your armor, because he already has 650 health. Again, I said range is fine. All I'd recommend is having a little bit of duration if you want to have that quality of life from Path of Statues. Rumble Heap isn't necessary. Path of Statues is also necessary for the spamming. So for the Narimon slot, you could go with Equilibrium if you're using Manifold Bond, Constitution for extra ability strength, ability duration. Really, this is just preference. I don't think Vigorous swaps on this. I will test this right now. If it does, it's kind of goated. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay. That was good. Just got sidetracked for a moment. Okay. Continuing on. This is like a general build. Again, base range is fine. You can have this as whatever you want. Really, I would go with like natural talent for the casting speed, but I already have 2 shards for that. So I will actually take off continuity and replace this with constitution instead for the little bit of duration. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. Okay, now we're moving on to Matter Eye. Well, all of the power strength ones, you can go with Blind Rage and Transient Fortitude. And if you want, you can put on Fleeting Expertise. You can put on Fleeting Expertise, so you have that efficiency, but also enough duration to where you can still freeze enemies, and enough duration here where you can still petrify enemies. And this is pretty good, but you can also go with adaptation here, but this is my personal preference. I would just go with adaptation here and running. Where is it? Where is it? Streamline for the little bit of extra efficiency. So you can tell these builds are kind of similar. It's just a little bit higher duration. Again, do not use this as a guide for your building. This is just like a recommendation of what I've seen, and this is just my play style, how I use them. So if you want to go this way, go right ahead, but it's just how I play. So once you get it up there and going, you can really start seeing how good the damage is. Also, the cast for the 3 is very quick. So you can actually just punch and then cast the 3 and punch again, and it'll still be there. But we can do this with Eximuses. Actually, I don't think it affects them, but Eximuses, let's unpause the AI for now. It is kind of hard to survive at first, which I will show you. But if you're constantly casting your abilities with your 1 and others, you'll be generally okay at the start. But once you start getting up to the territory of like 1,400, that's when you're gonna understand that you don't need all the efficiency, because this is just a preference. Again, I like having all the efficiency, so I don't have to worry about it. Plus, I'm not that good at building up the stuff yet. As you can see, I just ran out of energy there because I casted like Petrify like 5 times on accident. But we're almost up there. And then I will post this video. It does take a while to build up if you're not doing it properly. And I, in fact, am not, so don't worry. It is really not that. Okay, here we are. We're at 1,500. Now, in the territory of this, where you get to 1,500, it's just so easy to deal damage because of the double damage. If you're running a influence build like me, where it's not DOT, you just kind of destroy everything. Overall, Atlas is kind of goated now. He's always been goated, but this makes him even better. I recommend you use him. You can find a lot better builds in other videos, but if you want to use mine, go right ahead. That's it.